Alright, everyone, and welcome back to Sharing with Shellshock. I am ShellshockPrime, and this is the latest episode where we are now getting ready to talk about different topics that I usually have within the show. And tonight, we have arcade games. So, Homecoming, are you here?
Yes, I am.
How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. It's a good night to talk about arcade games.
Absolutely. Soan, are you here?
I am indeed.
How are you doing tonight?
I'm great. Can't wait to talk about arcade games.
Awesome. And what about you, Ben? How are you doing tonight? I can't hear you, Ben.
Yeah, I'm doing okay.
Okay.
Feeling a bit sheepish that I'm like, oh, hey, I actually had my mic muted and oops, forgot to unmute myself before we started.
It's okay. It's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good to see all of you. Derek is asking in the chat. I don't see Soan. Yeah. Unfortunately, they weren't able to get the webcam running in time, and Homecoming chose to do voice, which is fine. So I appreciate you two being here nonetheless.
Next time, I'll work on it. It's been a busy week. Sorry.
It's fine. All right.
I heard that.
All right. But yeah, it's good to see all three of you here. And first things first, both Soan and Homecoming are new to this podcast while Ben has been here before. So first, Soan, what type of content do you do, like, in general? What type of content do you do?
And I stream retro games and the Sega Genesis on Mondays, and I do modern style or anything else on Fridays.
That sounds good.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what you usually do, like, Mondays and Fridays. You just stream those 2 days a week.
Yep.
Okay.
Around 7 p.m. Central Time.
Okay, sounds good. All right. Homecoming, what type of content do you do?
Well, thank you for asking. I blog, podcast, TikTok, write, and do a host of other things, and I also recently returned to streaming just last night with Shredder's Revenge. I'm planning on streaming once to twice a week, but still getting back in the habit with that.
Sounds good. Very good. And Ben, remind everybody what type of content you do.
So I'm a variety streamer on Twitch. I do a focus on predominantly RPGs, but I also have focus. Like I said, I focus predominantly on RPGs, but I do other content as well. I've done platformers. I've done adventure games. I recently wrapped up a playthrough of Breath of the Wild just a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
And I'm starting in on a playthrough of Jedi Fallen Order.
Very nice.
Thing is, I'm currently having some technical issues, so the stream that I had planned for this Sunday, I have to postpone due to circumstances largely beyond my control.
Mm-hmm.
So, as far as Derek Brony is asking, have I played the DLCs too? I have. I covered both Master Sword Trials and Champion's Ballad.
Very nice. Very good.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, because like I know I did watch you like play a couple of streams of Breath of the Wild, like, and I know you did the DLC as well, which I gotta revisit the DLC at some point. I'm probably gonna do that before Tears of the Kingdom comes out, so which obviously I'm looking forward to, but that's another topic for another day. Tonight we're gonna be talking about arcade games, and we have a lot of stuff to talk about. So we're gonna start up with the very first topic that we have here, which is what are your earliest memories of arcade games? And Soan, we will be starting with you.
As I already mentioned it before So mine was at a grocery store. I don't remember what grocery store. It was either an Aldi or Butera. There were 3 arcade games. One was what was that Capcom game called? The one you were playing, Magic Sword or something?
Yeah, Magic Sword.
Yeah, that's that was the one I was addicted to every time we went to the grocery store.
Mhm.
And next to it was Bad Dudes, and then the left one I don't remember because it was something I never was interested in. Those are the two games I were playing.
Right. Like so, and that's basically like your earliest memory.
Yes, earliest memory. And I did play The Simpsons in other spots, but not. It wasn't my first.
Ah, yeah, yeah. Because I know that you have a lot of experience with arcade games since, like, obviously, like, so you're definitely a couple years older than me, and you have played a couple of games, around the time where they were new, way before.
Yeah.
Some of them, like, when I was like very small too, I guess. But yeah. Still, Magic Sword's a pretty good game, and same thing for like Bad Dudes. I didn't really play too much of, but The Simpsons obviously I have played. But I'll definitely talk more about The Simpsons in a little bit. Homecoming. What are your earliest arcade experiences?
My earliest arcade experiences, my mom and my aunt would always go to dinner at a specific restaurant after work, and um, a Chi-Chi's, and it's long closed down back in my old hometown, and uh, that was one of my earliest arcade experiences because they had the Simpsons arcade game, and they had, I believe, either Cruisin' World Tour or Cruisin' Exotica. It was not Cruisin' USA,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed both of those quite a bit. Aside from that, Tekken 2 arcade machine at the local laundromat growing up, I used to love that, right next to a Galaga and a Pac-Man machine, so I would play those, and those are some of my earliest memories. But the like creme de la creme, the big one that took the crown, that had to be Chuck E. Cheese, or as I said before we got on here, Charles E. Cheddar Mouse, because I would spend so many birthday parties there playing either the Star Wars arcade game, or there was like this railgun shooter with Jurassic Park, because my era, I was born in 94, so arcades were really on their way out aside from places like Chuck E. Cheese. So like the laundromat and the restaurant, I would have scraps of like the golden era of arcades. Like I never had access to an arcade with a bunch of like machines that were modern until way later when barcades hit the scene. But yeah, those are my earliest arcade memories.
Very nice. Yeah. Yeah, Chuck E. Cheese is always a really interesting experience, but I've only ever been there once in my life. But I'll get to
I feel
that.
vindicated, actually.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but I've only been to Chuck E. Cheese like maybe twice myself. So
Yeah, that's
I
fine.
haven't really been too much in Chuck E. Cheese either.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about my Chuck E. Cheese experience when it's my turn to speak. But Ben, what's your earliest experience with arcade games?
So the earliest experience I have, I've never, like I said, I've never been to a Chuck E. Cheese, but just this is really more of a question, not just for the three. What's going on?
Did you say you just been to Chuck E. Cheese twice?
I did, but I meant to say, I let me revise.
Okay.
I've never been to Chuck E. Cheese that often.
Okay.
Like I said, I've only been to like twice.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to put you on the spot there, but
No, I appreciate it.
yeah,
I tend to slip up like that. Just whoop.
it's fine.
Say one thing and then immediate self-contradiction.
It's fine. It's fine. Continue.
But yeah, this is more of a question for everyone, not just the three of you. But do any of you recall a place called Discovery Zone?
Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, that was my
That
earliest
was the Midwest
experience.
thing.
Yeah.
What was
Yeah.
that?
A little place called Discovery Zone. That was my first earliest experience.
Yeah.
So for those watching the VOD later or currently in chat now who don't know what Discovery Zone is, it was basically an indoor. I really didn't say an amusement park, more of an indoor playground. Had like a bunch, like the playpen areas, like some McDonald's will have on like the side of their buildings or something like that.
Yeah.
Basically, imagine like a giant department store sized version of that same play area. Like you got indoor mazes, you got like large tubes you can crawl through, so much stuff to climb on, massive ball pit,
Yeah.
and then they have like an entire arcade section kind of just by itself off to the side. And they had a bunch of stuff that was there. They had like the whole kind of like crocodile version of the whack-a-mole one. They had this the basketball, games that you do skee ball for days. And then the two ones I remember most vividly are this kind of shooting game where it's like you actually had like an air cannon and you had to like knock out like the teeth of this giant clown.
Mm-hmm.
And then my favorite one was this. I don't remember the title of this for the life of me, but it was this racing game where you were using like this motorcycle, and the actual prop that they had was based off. I don't know if it was a Suzuki or a Yamaha. I just know it was basically one of those crotch rocket style motorcycles that you'd swing your leg over and you'd actually like rode on top of. You'd have like the little handlebar that you twisted to accelerate and to turn. You actually had to lean left or right on the bike, and it would lean with you. So
I remember those. Not like at that age, but I do know exactly what you're talking about. It's like cruising and stuff like that, but with motorcycles.
exactly, yeah.
It's an arcade racer with motorcycles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That reminds me of Hang On.
Yeah, I remember Hang On.
Yeah.
That was probably the title. I mean, like I said, I don't remember the title of that one myself, but that was my earliest to remember.
Was it 16-bit like, or?
Yeah, it kind of looked like something like you would see out of a Sega Genesis.
Yeah, I'll have to
remember anyway.
If I find a link or something to like an image of it, and if it's something you remember, feel free to let me know, Ben.
Sure. I'm gonna do some research on that myself, see if I can't find it myself too.
Yeah,
A game on Shenmue, if you ever play Shenmue.
I believe it might be this one right here. Let me go ahead and post it right here. It's Super Hang On for arcade. I don't know if that's the one, but
that looks somewhat right. I think that was it.
Yeah.
But
It was both on Mega Drive and, Sega Genesis and Master System.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never played Hang On.
Yeah.
I'm used to the 3D era.
Oh yeah, same here. Like Hang On, I played a few times, but I was never really that big on it. But I have seen it a couple of times. But yeah. Anything else you want to add, Ben?
No, not top of my head anyway.
Okay. All right. So I'll talk about my experiences. Okay. So for me, my very first arcade experience was at a local deli when I was about like, I had to be either 3 or 4 years old. This was in 1990, and they had an arcade machine at a deli, and guess which one it was? It was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the first one.
Oh, yeah.
From 1989.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And my dad only gave me 1 quarter, and I died with some more in the first level, where like obviously like you have the whole apartment building getting caught in the fire, and after I died, my dad was like, "That's it, we gotta go," and then that was it. That was my first arcade game that I've ever played. Like at the time, I was still new to video games because I just got into playing NES games, so I was still new to video games, so I didn't quite understand it just yet. It took a little bit just for me to understand arcade games when I started going to more arcades later on. Like I've been to amusement parks. Like over here we have Coney Island, we have Playland, we have a couple other places here in New York. We had a bunch of arcades there. But there's one arcade that I remember growing up. My parents used to take me in Yonkers to a place where it's Nathan's Famous. They like with the hot dogs and all that. They had an arcade up there in the Bronx, attached to a Nathan's Famous. I used to go there all the time until about like 2008, and the Nathan's is still there, but they have long since left having the arcades there, like many years ago. But that's how I played The Simpsons. That's how I played the 6-player X-Men arcade game.
Yes.
That's how I played that's how I played a lot of the Marvel vs. Capcom games, the Street Fighter games, Mortal Kombat, Virtua Fighter, Tekken, and the list just goes on and on. There was just so many games. I remember seeing Killer Instinct 1 and 2 there. WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game, where it looked like Mortal Kombat, but with wrestlers from the WWF at the time. There was, like, what else did I see? I've seen Cruisin' USA, and World. I don't think I've seen Exotica there, but Daytona USA, they had that. And oh my god, Daytona USA. Oh man, just playing it on arcades was an amazing experience. Playing on Saturn, not as much because the frame rate is so choppy, but the arcade version is really good. And see, here's the thing. We actually had it really good with arcades back in the late 80s to like the 90s. We had a lot of great games back then. Not to mention Neo Geo machines with multiple games inside a machine. There was a lot of those. Like I would go to like a random
games in one.
Yeah. Sometimes it goes up to 6 games sometimes, but but most of the time I would see like machines with either one game or I might see like maybe 2 or 3, but I would go to like local stores, like there was one time there was like a clothing store and they had a Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition machine there. And I'm like, what is this doing here? And it was on, so I played it and it was fun. I remember like just random video stores. I played Mortal Kombat 1, Captain America and the Avengers. There was like a deli that rotated games every single week. And I remember they had Samurai Showdown, and then however, one of the longest running games they had was Super Street Fighter 2: The New Challengers. I was like 10 around this time, playing that with my brother. Going to pizza places. They had Marvel Superheroes. They had what was it? Street Fighter Alpha 2, which that game is the chef's kiss.
Did any of your pizza places have that really janky, bad Sega Spider-Man game? Because my pizza place had that, and it only took 2 playthroughs of that for me to be like, I'm done with this one.
Are you talking about the 4-player arcade game?
No, I think it's a single-player one.
Because I don't remember.
Single player.
I don't know.
It's like
Arcade?
purple. It's like purple. Oh, on the sides. Spider-Man beat 'em up.
Yeah, no,
Bring it up.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and I actually love that game. It's a 4-player game.
Remember, yeah.
No,
Barely though.
the only arcade game I ever played at a Pizza Hut was Super Street Fighter 2. That was the only one I remember seeing.
Not a bad
Samurai Showdown.
Was it this one, Homecoming? I just sent you like the picture.
Yeah, it was. You know what? Maybe I had a bad experience with it. Maybe I need to give it another try. But I remember playing that in a pizza place on a road trip.
I will tell you this. It's actually really good. It's actually better with like other people. It's fun. I highly recommend it.
I've never actually played any arcade Spider-Man stuff. I remember seeing the Street Fighter at the TV. I don't know. I had TV tropes on the brain for a second there. I remember seeing Street Fighter at the pizza place, the Pizza Hut, when I was young. One of my friends, when I was about like 9 or 10 years old, when we were like 3rd or 4th grade, we were. My friend's mother had like a little shop in this little kind of like, I wouldn't really call it a mall. It was more like a mini mall thing. And this was about the time when like Animorphs was coming out. It was like it was like only like first 8 books in the series, and there was this sort of mini arcade thing that they had in the building.
Yeah.
There was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles one was there. The one arcade version I remember off the top of my head. There was a couple others. Street Fighter was among them, but I couldn't remember the other titles. And then the only other arcade places I've seen were the mini golf situations. There was like a mini golf course where I grew up from that had like the arcade games. And then the only other place I remember was the local Cineplex. And it wasn't
Yeah.
so much an arcade, but it was, you did have like a few driving games there,
Mm-hmm.
as well as like a couple of crane games. But that was mainly about it.
Oh yeah, like I've seen a lot of other games in general. I've seen pinball, crane games, games where you could win tickets.
Yeah.
But pinball's great.
I
But
love pinball.
same.
That's
But
fun.
yeah, but for me, like I'm gonna talk a little bit about my Chuck E. Cheese experience. So I've only ever went to Chuck E. Cheese once, and I was 10 years old. My dad, because at the time, like my dad started visiting again after not seeing him for a while. And what happened was he took me and my brother to Chuck E. Cheese, but it turns out the reason we were at that Chuck E. Cheese is because of the fact that there was a relative on dad's side of the family that I actually never even knew existed was celebrating a birthday. And he just used that as an excuse to take me and my brother there because obviously Chuck E. Cheese, pizza, and also video games, so it made sense. So they had that Spider-Man arcade game there too. They had Marvel superheroes. They had Turtles in Time. They had actually that was the first time I've ever seen Turtles in Time in the arcades. I originally thought it was only on Super Nintendo, but when I saw that it was an arcade game, I'm like, oh wow, that's actually cool. And then there was that but this was around the time. This and here's the thing about this Chuck E. Cheese. This was around the time before because they had the old look for Chuck E. Cheese where Chucky was basically wearing like the suit and everything.
Not the purple.
This was actually months before they changed to the whole purple and green gear that he used to wear just to look cool. So I went to Chuck E. Cheese before they changed it up so they could be hip and cool. Yeah. That was basically an experience. It wasn't bad, mind you. It was good because obviously me being excited to just play video games at a Chuck E. Cheese and like just have fun. That was really what mattered to me. I've been to similar places. I too have been to a Discovery Zone, which I will say right now, Discovery Zone closed around there was a Discovery Zone near the neighborhood where I used to live at. It closed around 98, 99. But guess what? The sign for it saying Discovery Zone entrance is still in the side of the building to this very day, despite the fact that it's been out of business for 20 plus years.
That's wicked.
Yeah.
Would you say that somebody would see that and then go and discover that it's not there anymore?
Yes, exactly. Because that's what it is. Because the fact that I could just I think there's like an abandoned America picture Twitter account where you could just send abandoned stuff, abandoned restaurants or arcades or anything like that. You can just send it to them because that's abandoned. They're gone and there's no way they're ever coming back.
Can you go back there and then take a picture of it?
Yeah, exactly. I could take a picture of it soon. I could just go there. It's not that far from me, and I can just take a picture.
You should share it.
Oh, I could just post it on Twitter too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as Derek DeBroni asked, which I'm gonna actually use the feature chat feature so you can actually see it on my screen. What was that Chuck E. Cheese mascot before the change happened? I don't remember. I know there was a character that they had called Pasquale.
Yeah, he was like a chef.
Yeah,
because then he was demoted to be a part of Chucky's gang of friends. Because when I was going to Chuck E. Cheese back when he became Hipster Chuck, as we see here,
yes.
He had 4 friends. He had this weird purple dude who looked like Discount Grimace. He had a chicken lady, and he had Pasquale.
Oh god, Pasquale, yeah. Fun fact, sometime around in 2020 during the pandemic when like supposedly Chuck E. Cheese filed for bankruptcy. Somehow they recovered, but
I remember that. Wow.
around this time, since obviously nobody can go to a Chuck E. Cheese, to get around the fact that they want to be able to still make money with the pizza, what they did was they used like Grubhub, Seamless, and all these places just so that they could be able to sell pizzas. However, they could not use the name Chuck E. Cheese for this. You want to know what they ended up using? They used Pascali, like Pascali.
Oh man!
They call themselves Pascali's Pizza.
That's some poetic justice right there.
And now, like, they're okay now. They're thriving. Despite everything, they actually met. Like, there was a point where they actually could have been gone, and they could have been just a distant memory. But somehow they managed to thrive, and arcade. Their arcades are good.
Business people.
Their arcades are back, and their arcades are still going strong. Just like how we have Dave and Buster's and Round One and Barcades.
I was about to say, arcades have seen a massive resurgence in the past. I want to say 2 or 3 years specifically. Although the arcades we know and love, it's no longer quarters. It's card swiping. Like you load up a card and get all your credit on there.
Yeah.
Well, at least all the arcades around here, Dave and Buster's, the bowling alley, stuff like that. Unless it's a really old machine, then they make you go get the quarters. But aside from that, that's one of the interesting things I think about arcades is like card swiping. And I'm like,
well,
but I like sticking coins in things.
Exactly, me too. Like, but for me, like, I've been to barcades, and the worst time to go to a barcade is like on a Saturday night when it's super crowded, because it gets super overwhelming. But there's two within the New York City area that I've been to where like they have different types of games. There's one that has like a bunch of older arcade games like Tetris, like the Tetris arcade game that Atari did. They had a bunch of beat 'em ups. Like I know they had Simpsons there, and they also had the original Turtles game. They didn't have Turtles in Time in that one, and X-Men, and a few other games. But the other barcade that I've been to, they basically have a lot of other games that the other one didn't. Like, they did have Turtles in Time, although they have since got Simpsons. They have Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, which is actually a very, very weird game, but fun. They had Strider 2, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Alpha 2 and Alpha 3, and they even have a Nintendo Play Choice 10 with Super Mario Brothers 3.
I have played a versus Super Mario Brothers at a local 7-Eleven at one point.
They have that there too. At the
nice.
At that barcade, they have that there too. And they have a lot of cool stuff. They even have like one of the arcade Punch-Out games.
Man, that's a rare sight.
The first one, like they have, because there's two.
Live by
Soan?
Yeah, I live by a really popular arcade called Galloping Ghost, and it's really nice.
You do, yeah.
That one is sick.
I need to go to Galloping Ghost.
Yes, at least one time, and make it your bucket list.
Oh yeah.
Galloping Ghost even has Tron. Like, Galloping Ghost has some rare polls.
You name whatever game you like, you'll probably find it, and more.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing also is that like they had like Punch Out. There's also Super Punch Out, but the one I went to only had like the original arcade Punch Out, like where like your character's a wireframe. It wasn't Little Mac.
Right,
like,
yeah.
Little Mac did not exist yet. He didn't exist until the NES Punch Out game. But like they had like the most stereotypical, like they had super stereotypical characters. Like they had a character named Pizza Pasta. They had Kid Quick, And there was one that I don't know if it was the first one or the second one. They had Soda Popinski, but he wasn't called that. Yeah, Vodka Dragensky. But because of the fact that
They have to censor it.
But because the fact that NES Punch Out, they were trying to sell the game to kids, they had to change them up to Soda Popinski.
And yet they still kept the drunk references in there.
They did, yes. I think he was still called Vodka Dragensky in Japan. I don't know if, like, in the Punch Out reboot, if he was ever retconned to Soda Popinski in Japan. Like, I know, obviously, they already did that here, but as far as arcades go, yeah, those are my arcade experiences. I definitely had a lot to talk about with that, as you can see. Yeah, so arcade games in general, like, those are my earliest memories of those, with different experiences. We're gonna go on to the next topic, which is favorite arcade games of all time. So
it's funny. I've actually spent more time at the arcade as a grown adult than I ever had as a child.
Oh yeah.
About the same, yes.
Yeah. Soan, you're gonna go first. What are your favorite arcade games of our time?
Well, this is a weird one because I was born near this time. Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
I played it on NES first, but it took me 20 years later to actually play the arcade version. But because of King Kong, that's what made me want to play the arcade. So that's one of them. Killer Instinct was a high-end one, but I was really bad at the joystick. So I played the Super Nintendo, but I tried to go into an arcade near me and play it there, but, you know, I often got really bad at it.
Yeah.
No, I don't have any other ones that I can pop up, like
All right.
maybe Marvel superheroes I played a lot.
Yeah.
Simpsons was alright. I mean it was a novelty thing, like, oh, this is cool, but you played it once and played it a few times and it's like, oh, okay, that's cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's always a lot of good arcade games in general. Homecoming. What about you? What are some of your favorite arcade games of all time?
The list goes on, but so I'm gonna like pick some favorites by categories. If I'm in the mood for a racer, one of my absolute favorites is actually a modern pick because my movie theater has one, my mall has one. I'm surrounded by this machine. I love Cruisin' Blast.
It's a good one.
Yeah. It's crazy to see a Nintendo logo on the back of a like arcade cabinet, and I'm like, wow, that's insane. Another recent favorite is one that I actually only played last week for the very first time, which is Mario Kart GP.
Oh, I have played it. That's a fun one. Yep.
I love that one.
Yeah, I had to stop myself from playing it because I was having so much fun with it. But in terms of the classics, Tekken 2 has a very near and dear place to my heart. I probably like Tekken more than Street Fighter. I always enjoyed the kind of weight to Tekken. In terms of beat 'em ups, I would probably have to say X-Men. X-Men is my absolute favorite. I love, if you had to twist my arm and be like Turtles, Simpsons, or X-Men, I would probably pick X-Men. I love the cheese factor of it. I love being Cyclops and I love
Welcome to die.
Welcome to die.
I think Colossus.
Being Colossus.
Colossus, yeah.
I love that so much, and I would also say one that I only discovered a couple years ago at a modern barcade, but is such a great time, is Mega Man the Power Fighter. Is it Power Fighters or Power Battle?
There's both of them. I love both of them. I couldn't tell you which one I prefer more, but I do love Power Battle and Power Fighters.
Yeah,
it's
both of them.
So good.
I didn't know there was two. I thought it was one.
There was two.
Yeah, there are two of them, and yeah, I played that, and I was like, this is. it's everything you love about Mega Man, but in a fighting game, and I love it. Yeah, and then in
Peter,
terms
didn't
of
you
like,
do a stream of that not too long ago?
I did, yeah.
I apologize, Homecoming. I didn't mean to cut you
oh,
off.
you're fine, you're fine, it's all good. Oh, and then as a kid, probably because it was so much carnage, and I probably shouldn't have been able to, I always had a soft spot for Rampage.
Oh, that's
Oh,
always a
yeah.
fun one.
I always had a soft spot for Rampage. There's a hotel that my family would come and stay at in my hometown, and when I would go see them, by the pool there's a Rampage machine. And one day I was like, "What is this?" And then I was like, "Oh, this is fun! I am the monster. No one can stop me." So
Yes.
yeah,
No,
those
there
are-
was nudity in that.
no, I didn't. Young me was just too focused.
It's only for a little bit.
Yeah.
Young me
Yeah,
was
right. Yeah.
just on being the monster. I was like, "Oh yeah, break the building, break the helicopters." I was like, "This is awesome." But yeah, those are some of my favorites.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, those are some of your favorites? Yeah, those are some good
Mhm.
games in general. But yeah, Rampage was actually fun. I played Rampage World Tour more than the original one, but they're both really good. Yeah. Ben, what about you?
So, Homecoming actually named a few that I was going to name, namely the Mega Man games, and Mario Kart Arcade GP.
Yes.
Those are some of my favorites. Another one of my personal
You could take
favorites.
a picture of yours.
Let's see. Another one of my personal favorites is the Star Wars trilogy, where you actually go through and you play through the Battle of Yavin, the Battle of Hoth, and the Battle of Endor.
I completely forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me of it.
Is that the one with the joystick? Like it's an on
Yes.
rails one?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh, I played the living daylights out of that Chuck E. Cheese. Darth Vader would just end
Yes.
my run every day.
Yeah, you'd fight against Darth Vader. You'd also be able to like block blaster bolts from Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm.
You had the race through the Endor Forest as well.
Yes.
But that was one of my personal favorites. Was the Star Wars trilogy one. I loved that one. Believe it or not, Luigi's Mansion also had an arcade game as well.
It does. It's actually made by Capcom.
And I actually liked that one a lot. I only played it once, but I remember loving it.
Yeah.
One of my favorites as a young kid was this sort of rail shooter for Jurassic Park.
Yes.
Were you in the Jeep?
Yes.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
I have played that
Yes.
one.
Yes.
But I also liked one of those. I don't know. It wasn't Virtual Cop was one of them. I do like kind of one of them, but I was thinking more like along the line. I'm trying to remember the name of this one. It was one where it's like
Time Crisis?
might have been no, Time Crisis was one, but there was another one where it's like involving zombies.
House of Dead.
Was it Dead?
House of the Dead, yes.
Oh my god. Yeah.
I
But
have
one of my-
played that one, yeah.
One of my favorite things to do, especially with House of the Dead, is if I have the money, or even just the funds on my card, is I will actually swipe both players and just dual wield. Just go on with both pistols.
Oh my god. Yes.
I think I've done that one time.
This kind of also is more in regards to round one rather than anything else I've done, but a couple of the more foreign ones that I remember playing that I really enjoyed was Taiko Drum Master
Ooh.
and Final Fantasy Theatricum. It's a rhythm game. I remember. I don't remember the Final Fantasy subtitle on that one, but it's definitely a rhythm game.
Is it theater rhythm?
Yes, might have been theater rhythm. I just thought it was some other theatricalis or whatever other weird title it was. I
Yeah.
I
don't
do
remember
think
what
it's
it was,
rhythm too.
but it might have been theater rhythm. I don't know. I Mr. Ben don't know shit. But one of the things that, and I've never played it this much all that often. I've actually played more of the home versions than I have the actual arcade. But one of my favorite things that I loved doing, one of my favorite arcade games, was DDR.
DDR is
I
definitely.
tried playing it. I gave up.
Yeah,
Terrible
like
dancing.
I tried getting into DDR, but I decided it wasn't for me. But it ended up being more my brother's thing, which I'll talk about DDR soon. But continue on, Ben.
I only played it. I mean, now I've played DDR more, but I have also played the. I think it was what was it? Was it Step Mania or was it
Well,
Beat Mania?
Beat Mania? That
Beat
was
Mania,
it. Thank
yeah.
you. Yeah, I played Beat Mania once. I actually like that one too. But what kind of screwed me up about Beat Mania was that the arrows for DDR are like kind of at the cardinal directions, the like directly in front of you, directly back, and then the two sides. But Beat Mania has it adjusted like 45 degrees, so they're both at the corners instead. Maybe it was Step Mania. I don't remember. It was either Step Mania or Beat Mania, but I just remember the corner pads kind of threw me off first when I first started trying to play that one.
Yeah.
Thing is, I've actually wanted to do a stream where I actually have like my room here converted into like a sort of a dance area, but I don't have a lot of space here.
Yeah.
But I would love to do that because who wouldn't want to see a 450-pound Batman making a fool of himself
Mm.
on live stream?
Mm-hmm.
But that's pretty much as far as like actual video games go. Those are like my favorite ones.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. So now it's on to me, and I have a lot of games, but I'm only gonna narrow down to like not everything, but some of the ones that I really like the most. So obviously for me, like fighting games are always like number one for me. Like I love Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Capcom vs. SNK 2, Mortal Kombat 2 and Ultimate 3, Killer Instinct. What else I like? Virtual Fighter 2 is a good one. Tekken Tag Tournament, Tekken 3.
Tekken's also a good series. I love Tekken.
Yeah, Tekken's great. There's a lot of fighting games in general. Like I played like some of the more obscure stuff. Like I like the Darkstalkers games, specifically Vampire Savior, the third one. I like Power Stone, Rival Schools, and like also
Guilty Gear.
Yeah, Guilty Gear. I didn't really play Guilty Gear in the arcades. I mainly played that on console, if anything. But I do, however, like the Fatal Fury and King of Fighters games, and obviously Terry Bogart's one of my favorite characters. Hence the fact that I use him in Smash.
Yeah.
Samurai
Same
Showdown, Metal Slug. Metal Slug's not a fighting game, but I still enjoy Metal Slug, mind you.
I completely forgot about Metal Slug. That's another good one.
Yeah, those are good. I enjoyed that. Like Metal Slug, I enjoy those. I like Contra. I like playing the beat 'em ups like Simpsons. Simpsons being like one of the ones that I spent so many quarters on that one. More than Turtles in Time. More than the arcade, the original arcade TMNT. Hell, even more than X-Men.
That's valid. Smithers cheats.
Yes.
I remember Golden Axe was one that I played quite often.
Mm-hmm.
So
there was a Golden Axe arcade game I played.
I didn't even know there was one.
There was two.
Yeah.
It was one that was ported to Genesis, like the original one.
Oh.
But there was another one that was never ported to consoles before. It's called Golden Axe Revenge of Death Adder. The best Golden Axe game ever made. Even better than the Golden Axe 2 that was on Genesis. Even better than like any other Golden Axe game after that.
Yeah, that was the one I played, was Revenge of Death Adder.
That one is amazing, yes.
Yeah.
And of course I played... Wait, what happened, so?
There was a Dungeons and Dragons arcade game.
Two
that
of them.
I played a little bit.
Two of them. There was Tower of Doom, and then there was Shadow over Mystara, which you could still get this game on Steam. Like it's on Steam right now. The Chronicles of Mystara. It's still there. It goes on sale for cheap too. Let's see. And also, I'm gonna highlight something that Derek just brought up right now because because he asked about like stuff like Space Ace and Dragon's Lair, and yes, I have played Dragon's Lair, and I sucked at it.
Never played Space Ace, but I have played the first Dragon's Lair, and I couldn't get past the first level.
That's right.
I have
the
to.
dungeon.
Yeah, but like, I played a lot. Like, I light gun games. I've also played too. I played some of my favorite light gun games ever made are for me. I absolutely love House of the Dead 1 and 2. I didn't really play 3 that much, but I played a little bit of 4 and I thought was pretty good. Time Crisis 2 and 3 are fantastic. 4 was alright. Time Crisis 1 I did not play as much. It's mainly 2 and 3 that I absolutely enjoyed. And there was a spin-off called Crisis Zone, but it was single player only, but it was pretty good.
I gotta say this right now.
Alright.
Because I'm sure all of you will agree with me, but playing a game like Time Crisis, Jurassic Park, whatever, a rail shooter, if you want to feel like an action hero as a kid, it's reloading your gun by shooting off screen.
Yes!
Yes.
That's the way we did
I
it.
feel so cool, baby.
That is the way we did
Reload.
it, yes.
Reload!
Reload.
Yeah.
That was like one of the best things I loved doing was especially when I was doing the dual wielding, I would like do like the bang bang bang, bang bang bang. I would actually alternate between hands sometimes. I'd like do like the dual wield like the gangster style.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
I'd have like one gun at the ready. I would use one gun, and then as soon as that one was done, I'd immediately swap to the other while reloading the first.
Oh, yeah, totally.
That's how I learned how to
When you
pistol
played,
whip.
so when you played it as a single player game, how did you reload your gun? This is to anybody.
So what I did was I did like what you mentioned, where you point off screen. But what I did was I just flipped the gun like directly up to the ceiling and just hit the fire button, because I mean you're pointing away from the screen, but but sometimes I would flick it off to the side, just kind of like in just sort of like a bang 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 flick, and just like with like one snap of my wrist, and then just back into the action.
Oh, yeah.
Side, sometimes up.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Same.
Most of the time it was just like directly, just like flicking it like right back toward myself and up toward the ceiling. Mad Dog McCree was another good one. I've never actually played that one in the arcade personally, but I have played the 3DS version of that one, and I have
on
found that
Sega
one very
CD,
fun.
and it was pretty good on Sega CD.
Yeah.
Probably one of the most interesting arcade games that I've played. In regards to the gun, I forget which one this was called, but you're basically taking a sniper's position. You actually have to look through the scope of the sniper rifle to, kind of, because the thing is the way that it's set up is that it's kind of like the Star Fox Zero kind of thing, where there's the actual main action on the main screen, where you're like on top of the rooftop, and you can see the city like right before you on the rooftop. But the actual main action is through the scope of the gun that you have to be able to zoom in on.
On scope,
I think it might be Silent Scope.
Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, let me actually post this on your end. There we go. It might be this. Like there was at least 2 or maybe 3 of them.
That was exactly it. Yeah.
That is such an interesting concept back then. It wasn't the greatest game, but it was like, that's interesting.
That machine looks like it's going harder than it needs to.
Yeah, it
you
really
only
is.
see the actual edge in the eye spot, and not the screen.
Yeah, and hence the tagline that they have: "Seeing is believing."
Yep. So like you have to actually like really study. You actually have to like really be into the scope thing, because that's where all of the action is right there in the eyesight.
Oh yeah, Silent Scope.
Because you can't see shit on the actual main screen.
Yeah, like Sega actually made similar games. Like they actually, well, I don't know about the scope part, but there was like these 2 arcade games that they had. where like you were in a specific location, and obviously you just use whatever guns you had. Like there was a game called Gunplay New York, which PVT Maverick mentioned, and there was a sequel called LA Machine Guns, which there was a compilation that had both of those games, and it was on the Wii, and it's expensive to get now. But I have played Gunplay New York. I don't think I've played LA Machine Guns, but they do but they do look really good. They like I remember the first one being a lot of fun.
This is the first time I've heard of both of those games.
Yeah, they're from Sega. What happened in Homecoming?
I was going to say, for those in the chat who are interested, those in the call who are interested, I have a couple light gun games that are on Wii that are fairly inexpensive. Aside from Link's Crossbow Training, Ghost Squadron from Sega is a really good on-rail shooter that has up to 4 players. That one I got for $3.
Wow,
there's House of the Dead Overkill, and
Overkill is amazing. Yeah.
I gotta finish Overkill, but I have it.
And then there's Link's Crossbow Training.
Yeah, Link's Crossbow Training. Yeah, like there's like a lot of other stuff for me. For me, in terms of other arcade games that I absolutely love, well, I can tell you right now, like Strider is definitely one. I have played a lot of Captain Commando. Played, of course, like you got when it comes to fighting games. Even though I mentioned a lot of them, Street Fighter 2, I played a lot of. But I played Street Fighter 1, and it's so bad. Street Fighter 1 is a bad game.
Yep. That's why it doesn't have online support on the collection.
That and like you have to, because you have to get the inputs right. It's never easy. Like supposedly there's a way where you could just like you do the input and you have to hold the button. Then when you release it, it works. I tried it. It actually doesn't work that way. There are people who say it works.
That game. You literally have to button mash.
Yeah, like if you're playing on Capcom Arcade Second Stadium, you could play Street Fighter 1 on that, and at least in that you have not only save states, but also rewinds.
Oh.
But no matter who you're fighting, no matter who you lose to, it's always you gotta try a lot harder than do that to beat me. Try again, kid.
Or when you win, it's basically what strength. But don't forget, there are many guys like you all over the world. Which
that was the one I was thinking of. Yes,
that one I remember too. But other games that I played, there was a game that I remember playing when I was a kid, and I could not remember the name of it for the life of me. But what it was about was like, there was like, I'm trying to remember what it is now. Like I remember there was like a game I was trying to find for years and I still could not find it. Damn, I lost my train of thought on that one. However, I will say I have found some arcade machines of Ghosts and Goblins and Ghouls and Ghosts. Both games you have to beat the game twice, which there's no way you're going to do it unless you have a lot of quarters, which good luck on that.
Same with Magic Sword. That was, yeah.
Magic Sword was nowhere near as hard, though, compared to the Ghosts and Goblins games. But yeah, what other stuff I found? Final Fight, I found, let's see, I found, there was also, like, the 1940X games that Capcom's done, like 1942, 1943, which are early shmups. Then they advanced them, made them much more like better, more modern around that time. Of course, I too have played the Mega Man Powered Battle games. I played the second one. I never played in the arcade. I played it on GameCube on the Mega Man Anniversary Collection, and then they ended up porting them to the Capcom Arcade Second Stadium, which is where I have it on there. There was also an arcade game that I remember playing, and it was like a carnival game. Like it was called Carnival. I think it was made by Midway. It's basically like a light gun game where like you're in like an evil haunted house. It was super creepy. It was extremely creepy and disturbing.
Not Carnival? No, that's not
It's
it.
Carnival. But
Oh, okay.
there's actually a game I remember finding where it was like a game show of sorts, except you're basically moving around shooting people. It's called The Grid. It was made by Midway.
Oh, yeah.
And it was the last arcade game from Midway, and it was actually made by some of the members of the Mortal Kombat team. And the reason that game, like, the game did not do well in the arcades. That's why it was never brought over to console. But it was made by Midway. It was a lot of fun. They really nailed it with that one. It's basically like a good concept of game show with different events. You have to shoot other enemies, like other opponents, and you win money. You have to see how far you can go. It was great. Oh, Revolution X! I remember that game. That was basically like a light gun game with Aerosmith.
Yep.
They were going to.
And it had bad ports on consoles, though.
Yeah, the arcade version was the only good one. What?
Yep.
I remember something similar called Super Smash TV.
Yeah, Super Smash
Oh
TV.
my god, yes, it was overview, 3/4 view kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that one. What I also remember was like, because Revolution X was going to have a sequel where instead of Aerosmith they were going to use Public Enemy, but the game got canceled because the console version of Revolution X did not do well.
I just realized you can't even stream Revolution X because the music.
Yeah, they have like, even though small samples, like obviously DMCA, like
Yeah.
like one track that I could instantly bring up is "Eat the Rich," which I know Aerosmith did. That's actually in the game, as well as a couple of other songs. You only get small samples, and that's it. But it was all right. Console versions are not good. None of the console versions are good.
I'm trying to think of good. We get a lot of really solid ports today. Even like, which is very interesting. Like the definitive way to play like Turtles Arcade now, the Cowabunga collection is nothing short of amazing.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
The the Capcom collection recently, that's really good. With all the Darkstalkers
Yeah.
and Street Fighter and all. Yeah.
But
oh yeah,
the Cowabunga collection is like, the fact that like having those games in addition to having like just the arcade games in general alone, great to play 4-player co-op with your friends on that. But hopefully that paves the way to have more arcade games. Like I would like to see one that has Simpsons, X-Men, a couple other stuff. I've never seen an arcade machine for Aliens versus Predator.
Oh. Didn't Capcom release that one arcade stick
In
with that?
in Europe, yes. For whatever
Oh.
reason, that's the only re-release they did for that game. I don't know why they
That
never put
arcade stick. That was
Alien vs.
ridiculous.
Predator on console or PC, but
I think I like where Shell is heading. Like Simpsons, X-Men, Alien vs. Predator. We can call it the licensing nightmare collection.
yes.
Yeah.
And mostly focus on like stuff that has Disney, Fox, Marvel, since Disney owns all that stuff. Yeah. But yeah. I could go on and on with a lot of other stuff, but I will say Daytona USA for racing, Daytona USA, Cruisin' World,
Oh yeah.
those are like my two favorites. I did not really have that much nostalgia for Ridge Racer, unfortunately, but it was mainly Cruisin' World and Daytona USA.
Crazy Taxi, have you played it?
Yes, Crazy Taxi, I love that.
Taxi,
Too.
that's
Yeah.
another good one.
Yeah, Crazy
Yeah.
Taxi, yes. And yeah, but those are basically my favorite arcade games. Yeah, so we do.
Actually, I meant to mention Crazy Taxi, but anywho.
Yeah, we do have one more topic that I want to bring up today, which is if you have your own arcade, what would be the games that you would want in it? Soan, you go first.
Sure. Donkey Kong, obviously. I wouldn't make a main box or whatever.
Mhm.
Donkey Kong, Killer Instincts, both of them.
Mhm.
What else? What else? Trying to think here. I don't play arcades much anymore, so House of Dead, both of them. Oh,
Yeah.
actually, all of them might as well. Uh, if that would work, I don't know, because you had to put up the light gun and the thing. Um, Possibly Street Fighter. Oh, Fatal Frame. Girl. Uh, that was in the arcade, was it? A lot of fighting games
Well,
would go on
I
there.
think you mean Fatal Fury. Fatal Frame was never in arcades.
Oh yeah, Fatal Fury. My bad. Yeah, I
Yeah.
beat the first one and they were pretty good. Oh, Samurai Showdowns.
Yep.
Yeah, that's. I mean, the list can go on really.
Mhm. All right. Sounds good. What about you, Homecoming?
Well, first off, I would put in a Qbert machine so everybody can be tricked into being like, "Oh, this game looks like a fun, simple puzzler," and then you realize that Qbert does not control, nor does it age well. So that's instant money. That, but aside from Qbert, I would have to put in X-Men. X-Men to me is so amazing. Probably put in The Simpsons. Maybe either the first Turtles or Turtles in Time. Cruisin' Blast, I would put in there. I would put in. There's so many great options. Some light gun games. I would definitely put in some Time Crisis and such, and really balance out. You can't go wrong with a Miss Pac-Man machine,
Mhm.
Nice.
or the classics like. I'm not necessarily a Centipede guy as somebody who's played both. I'm more of a Galaga fan.
Would you
Dennis
put on Tetris?
Actually, for the puzzler fan, I'm not putting in Tetris. I'm
But
putting
would
in
you-
Bust a Move.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's a
Yeah,
good
I'd play
one.
that. Yeah, I would. Puzzle Bobble. Yeah.
Yeah, I will put in Puzzle Bobble because as much as I love Tetris, Puzzle Bobble has some of the most rockin' puzzle music
Yes.
like out there.
There were
And
so many versions though.
for fighting games, I would probably put in a Mega Man machine. Like, man, now I just need to go out and win the lottery so I can own an arcade. Like,
Yes.
now I have a new dream. But yeah, like really just I would want mine to if I had an arcade, I would call it past and present and I would have a mix of old and new machines.
Oh
Yep.
yeah.
I would want to do that. And of course some pinball machines. I didn't say it earlier, but I am a sucker for pinball and I love a good round of pinball. I don't have a favorite pinball machine, but I will say that I may not be the best at pinball, but every time I see one at like a restaurant or something, it's my kryptonite. I gotta go play pinball. There's
Oh, yeah.
50 cents I'm not getting back.
What's your favorite pinball game?
in terms of like now if we want to go to console because that one I can define easily Pokemon Pinball for the GBA.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I'm still holding my breath and I will probably now have to talk about that some other day for an appropriate time about how Game Freak is sitting on a gold mine if they would just put Pokemon Pinball on Switch already. Like, but
All right,
but
hey,
yeah.
give us a third game. We
Yeah.
haven't had one since Ruby Sapphire.
Yeah.
exactly. But yeah, arcades are great. But I would like to, because this is a quick yes or no question, I would like to ask a quick question to all three of you.
Okay.
If you
Sure.
could pick any, or if you could pass, would you get an arcade 1-up?
Yes, I wanted the
Yes.
Killer Instinct one,
Yes.
but it's expensive, so and I have no room.
Like my answer is yes, only for the simple fact that I do want some. The problem is my room is not big enough to justify that, and I don't have that many outlets. Even if I were to use power strips, it still would not be feasible. I would need to move out and get my own place in order to justify having an arcade 1-up. But that said, I'll get to mine in a minute. But continue on, Homecoming.
Oh no, I'm all wrapped up with my arcade. I mostly just wanted to ask all about Arcade 1-Up since we are on the topic of arcades, and it's been jumbling around in my brain for the past 15 minutes.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's
Oh,
fine.
good.
I don't know what
Oh,
that is.
good.
So
Well, Ben, what about you? What's your what arcade games would you want?
pretty much everything we've already listed.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be just gonna go for the simple, non-committal answer on that. Just pretty much everything we listed.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
what I would do is
everything. Everything.
Everything. Yes.
But I would probably have like my layout kind of like to where like round one was, where like I'd have like the like this would be like my layout. I'd have like the front door like right here. I would have racing games up off to this area. I would have fighting games on this area. Up on the on this one corner, I would probably have the beat 'em ups. If I had enough room, I'd probably install like a second story.
Yep.
Where that would be where like all the shooting games would be. I would have like an entire wall entirely dedicated to skee ball.
Yeah.
I'd have like the
Can I
other
be
wall
roommates
dedicated.
with you? No, just kidding.
I would have the other wall entirely dedicated to the basketball tosses, or just any stuff like that. But yeah, I would also have like a section of like DDR, Beatmania, rhythm games like that. I would want to have. This would probably entirely. This wouldn't be an arcade game, but hell, if I could get away with it, I'd have an entire section dedicated to paintball and laser tag.
Oh yeah.
It would probably require its own separate area.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
All right.
now I wish I had the money for that, because man,
Yeah.
that sounds like that'd be a hell of a thing. Laser tag, arcade, paintball.
Indeed.
Hell yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I
the hell
played
of-
one laser tag a while back, maybe before the pandemic happened.
Mm.
Oh yeah,
I've
that's a good point.
I've only done paintball once, but I've done laser tag a couple of times, and it's fun.
Oh, I always love a good round of laser tag.
Yeah. I'll go next, since I do have like a couple of things I want to bring up. First of all, a DDR machine, but not for me. For when my brother comes over, because I'll talk a little bit about this. My brother loves DDR to the point where he used to know so many people, still do, like play DDR, very passionate at the game, spend so much time playing it, the arcades. Specifically on DDR Extreme, that was the one that he spent the most time on, from what I remember back in the day. And he would go ahead and do that. He would spend a lot of time, like spend dollars just to play a couple songs and get extra songs after, like doing very well. Like he made it all the way up to heavy mode, playing it. And here's the thing about my brother. My brother is asthmatic, but despite that, he still does everything he can to manage to overcome his asthma while playing DDR. He is actually the real deal when it comes to that. Trust me, my brother is actually really good with that. He loves
And I'm
DDR.
asthmatic myself, I know how that is. So
Yeah. My brother like just loves it to the point where like he could just play DDR as much as he wants to, but obviously he knows when to take breaks. He knows when to make sure to take care of himself while he's playing the game. In the end, he has a good time. That's all that matters. He always has a good time playing. So yeah, I would have a DDR machine mainly for him whenever he would come over. If I had my own place and I had an arcade machine, like multiple stuff, he would have one for that. So here, I have DDR just for you, the way you want it, however you want it. There you go. That's that.
admittedly, that's the other half of the reason why I don't do the DDR stream that I want to, is because I'm afraid that if I do and I get into this, I'd probably kill myself with a heart attack.
Oh yeah.
About halfway through the stream.
The other thing also is that other arcade games that I would actually get, Marvel vs. Capcom 2. If you're gonna have a Marvel vs. Capcom game, and if you can only have one, that's the one. Obviously, people make memes over the years about it, like the whole like Magneto, Storm, Sentinel being like the ones that everybody uses the most. Cable, Cyclops, and all that.
Iron Man.
Yeah,
I
Iron Man,
don't mind the first game though.
Strider-
I enjoyed it.
Strider,
for what it
Doctor
was.
Doom. But yeah, Marvel vs. What happened? Homecoming?
Oh, I was just gonna say, because we were talking about Marvel vs. Capcom 2, to quickly just chip in. You can't play Marvel vs. Capcom 2 without using one of your slots purely for Wolverine. Just say Berserker Barrage.
Yes. Like for me, I absolutely love that game.
Oh, Wolverines!
Like, sure, people will say it's an overrated game, but so what? There's a lot of games people will say it's overrated, but Marvel vs. Capcom 2, I would definitely have an arcade machine sitting in like a room, and like I would have that there. I would have Capcom vs. SNK 2, another great game, like because Capcom vs. SNK 2 was what got, or at least the first one, that was what got me more and more into SNK. Like I've played a couple of Fatal Fury games in passing, but it's what got me. But Capcom vs. SNK is what got me into King of Fighters, since I was already into Street Fighter. Because I was already into Street Fighter, so that worked out. Tekken 3 and Tekken Tag Tournament, and also Tekken 2. Tekken 2 was good, but Tekken 3 to me, like, it was like I felt like each Tekken game for a while was better than the last one. They would do everything they can to make it so that the last game would feel a bit dated in comparison to the most recent game. Although 2 was still good on its own right when 3 was out. It's just when 3 came out, that was the shit right there. I absolutely loved it. But Tekken Tag Tournament, because it was different because you played as 2 different characters and you could just switch between them whenever you need to, but just make sure not to get yourself knocked out. But you gotta knock out your opponents. I spent like, I think $5 or $6 trying to beat the final boss, and on my very last quarter, I did it. But yeah,
That's hype.
that was hype. Tekken Tag Tournament 1 was great. Then Tekken 4 kind of sucked, but 5 was basically where things picked up, and 6 was pretty good, and 7 is fantastic. I'm looking forward to 8. But yeah,
Soul Calibur.
Soul Calibur, yes.
Soul
Specific.
Calibur is, I love, yeah.
Yeah, I'll
Or
probably
Soul Edge, whichever it was in the arcade.
I'll probably have Soul Calibur 2 arcade, but Soul Calibur 1 as well. Soul Calibur 1, like, Soul Edge was okay, but Soul Calibur 1 was what got me into the series. Like, now that was a great game. And the arcade game ran on PS1 hardware. People expected that game to be on PS1, right? Nope. It went to Dreamcast.
Yep. And better graphics and everything. Better.
Dreamcast was just the fighting game's home.
It was.
Yeah.
a while.
Arcade arcade everything.
Exactly.
Pretty much.
Like, it was basically the last home console that felt more like, if you absolutely love arcade games, the Dreamcast was the console for you. Games that not 100% super deep into how the gameplay is, with a few exceptions, but Dreamcast was basically what you had covered. Like, if you want fighting games, anything that was pick up and play, you could just play it on there. It's like, EA refused to bring the like Madden or like other sports games. No problem. Sega had their own at the time. Sega. Whenever other companies would not do anything for Sega would pick up the slacks and make their own versions of the game. Sometimes better than the competition.
Yeah, like Soul Calibur and Tekken
Crazy
Tag
Taxi
was on
got
there.
sequel on there. Crazy Taxi.
Yeah, 3.
Yeah.
2 and 3 was on.
3 was on Xbox.
On Xbox, right?
It probably would have 3 probably would have been on Dreamcast, and the Dreamcast didn't die. But
and they had 4 players, 4 controllers can be played.
Yeah, because Sega learned from the N64, where like N64 was like the first home console to have like 4 controllers on a console at once. Dreamcast followed suit from that, and basically for a while everybody was doing that except for PlayStation. but arcades have been doing it for years. Like
Since you mentioned Marvel's Capcom 2, that ran on Dreamcast hardware too.
it did. Capcom versus SNK 2 and Capcom
Yeah.
versus SNK 1 did as well. And there were
Naomi board is what it was called.
the Naomi board. There was also Rival Schools 2, Project Justice,
Oh my god, oh my god.
Power Stones 1 and 2. There were so many other games as well, but Capcom loved using that board. Like, it was mostly Sega and Capcom that used that board. Like, Sega used that. There was like a Monkey Ball game that used that because it was originally meant for Dreamcast, but they canceled it and instead just made an expanded version of it called Super Monkey Ball for GameCube for the launch for that. And the thing with Monkey Ball, guess what? The controller was a banana.
I believe that.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen it in arcade.
I have, and at the time they had like a sponsorship from Dole Bananas, which they don't have that.
Nice.
They don't have that sponsorship anymore. But they had a lot of good stuff right there. Yeah, Sega. Like, I will say this right now: like the top companies that did the best with arcade games were Konami, Sega, and Capcom. They were mainly those three. Also, I mean, Namco did well. Nintendo didn't really do too much with the arcades later on. It was mostly like early on.
I don't remember much from Konami.
They did Contra. They did
Oh yeah.
Gradius. They did Life Force. They did
That's another one. Yeah.
yeah.
Salamander, I think was
They
that
did-
one.
Yeah, Salamander. The
They
Ninja.
did Konami's big breakout. One of at least was DDR.
Yeah,
I
DDR.
forgot it was oh my god.
But they also made
Konami for a while ruled the arcades with some of the stuff they had out.
they did. They,
no DDR.
they actually had a lot of other stuff they did. Like, for example, they worked on Guitar Freaks, Beatmania, Pop-In' Music, and so much more. Like, so many, like, music games. They were experimenting with music games, trying to get different types of music games into the arcades, but DDR was the most popular one of them all.
I think that's what started too.
Konami
Yeah.
did all the beat 'em ups that me and Shell love so much. They did Simpsons, they did Turtles. Like, Konami had a great streak. I would say
I forgot
that there was only one very unfortunate arcade loss, and that was one that didn't survive Midway. Midway once ruled. Like, Midway had some NBA Jam, Midway had Mortal Kombat, Midway had some solid hitters, but unfortunately they kept just trying to do the same thing over and over again and eventually lost steam. There's
They
actually a
did.
documentary all about them called Insert Coin. That's actually very, very interesting. I highly recommend
check.
it.
I think I've heard of it, but I didn't look at it.
I'll have to check it out sometime. And PBT Maverick in my chat brings up another one. Data East has some decent games. Burger Time being one of those. Yeah, they made Burger Time. They made Bad Dudes. They made a lot of other random stuff. But a lot of the games that they made sadly did not catch on with the mainstream. They were more niche. But they did make some pretty cool games. It's just the problem is that they had a lot of niche games. And some of them were copycats of games that already existed in the arcades.
If you are a massive Neo Geo or Data East fan, check out the Switch eShop because, well, a ton of Data East stuff is on NSO, like Puzzle Drop, Joe and Mac, stuff like that. But stuff like Bad Dudes, Data East, and Neo Geo, they have a lot of those ports on Switch, and they are dirt cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Did Waka Waka 7 make it?
Yes, it's on the Switch eShop, yes.
Is it? Oh my god. I gotta look at
In fact, it was actually one of the first Arcade Archives games on the Switch eShop.
Yeah, I bought In the Hunt.
Oh, In the
I
Hunt.
suck at it, but it's good.
Yes, I have In the Hunt. And the fun fact about that is that the people that made that game left the company Irem to work on a company called Nazca, which was the company that they ended up being best known for the Metal Slug games before SNK bought them.
Ah,
Yeah.
interesting.
So you could see a bit of Metal Slug influence in the Hunt, which that game was ported to Sega Saturn and PS1 originally after it was in the arcades. There was a Super Nintendo game planned, but it was canceled. And now it's on Switch, it's on PlayStation 4 from the arcade archives. Other arcade machines that I would actually like to have, I would probably want a Play Choice 10. I would want Outrun. I don't know why I didn't bring this up, but Outrun. Now that's a classic game right there.
That's it out. Yeah. I also forgot to mention that my little whatchamacallit, my little hypothetical arcade is that I would want to have kind of like did Soan or Homecoming mention this, where you would have like both a mix of retro and modern.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. What I would do is kind of like where I have with like the hypothetical 2 stories. I would probably have like an entire floor dedicated to retro games, and then like the other floor dedicated to modern.
See that's good.
So
80s, 90s, and then beyond.
Oh yeah.
Because I was
Now
at
there's a
Dave-
name.
I was at Dave & Buster's for the first time ever last week, and there's some very interesting modern machines. I mean, like, aside from the mentioned Mario Kart, I played Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games as a modern machine. There was a Tomb Raider light gun rail shooter. There was a Halo light gun rail shooter. And then the one that baffled me the most was Elevator Action, because, you know, that franchise is just kicking.
Yes.
The Elevator Action franchise is still alive in the arcades.
yeah.
You know, there's a Left 4 Dead arcade game.
There was, yes.
What?
Yeah.
And there was even a Guitar Hero game too.
I was just thinking like there was a guitar game.
I knew there was Guitar Hero, but was Left 4 Dead another Raw Thrills? Because Raw Thrills kind of has a corner on the
It
market.
was
at the
Japanese
moment.
only, so it kind of had anime characters instead of the regular, but the levels were similar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called Left 4 Dead Survivors. The publisher is Taito, another legendary publisher, which Taito is best known for Space Invaders, Arkanoid, and the Bubble Bobble and Puzzle Bobble games. and whatever happened to them, Square Enix, they own them.
Oh.
Yeah.
I also remember back the last time I was at Dave & Buster's, Private Maverick actually brings up Pac-Man. I remember Pac-Man Championship Edition that they had, where it was like all the neon and the flashing lights and the technotronic music. It was like
4 players, right?
Yeah.
I believe so. I never actually played it. I mean, I saw it being played, but I never played it for myself.
Oh, no.
So.
What you are thinking of is Pac-Man Battle Royale, where 4 people play Pac-Man.
Okay, all right, yeah. I have
Championship Edition is a single-player one, so they are 2 separate things.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Because I do recall seeing the Championship Edition. I know that for sure, because you even specifically said Championship Edition right there on the title. So.
Oh yeah. There was also there was a Rhythm Heaven arcade game, which was actually made by Sega, under license by Nintendo, of course, and it was only released in Japan, and it was just called in Japan it was just called Rhythm Tengoku. And Rhythm Tengoku was definitely a game that was on the Game Boy Advance. And the thing about it was this. They had a couple of the mini games, a couple of the games from Rhythm Heaven. I don't know why I said mini games. They're technically not mini games. They're just basically the games that you have to do just to catch the music and everything, just the way you play Rhythm Heaven. And it came out in the arcades in Japan in 2007, and it ran on the same arcade board as Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which is the Sega Naomi board, and that board was basically something in which it was very versatile. It was Sega's board. The fact that Sega actually used that just to develop an arcade game based off of a Japanese only GBA game and put it on there was actually pretty cool. See, the thing about it is, I honestly feel that in regards to arcade games that I want, I would probably have that just because I would like to own that. Same thing with the Luigi's Mansion arcade game. I would actually like the Luigi's Mansion arcade game, which Capcom did. I think that was actually pretty good. But yeah, there was a lot of good arcade games in general. There's a lot of good stuff. So yeah, we pretty much just went on like talking about like a lot of the arcade games we wanted to talk about.
I will give a pro tip. As somebody who did not play the Luigi's Mansion arcade game, for everyone listening, as somebody who played Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, do not play that after you eat. That's your pro tip. I learned that from experience.
Yeah.
I didn't even know those two existed, to be honest.
Yeah, it's there are 3 buttons on screen that you have to mash, but it's also basically a power pad, and you have to run and jump for a lot of the mini games. So when I did that, it was a mistake doing it after lunch. Let's just say that.
Another arcade game that popped in my head, Primal Rage.
That's a good one.
Oh yeah,
I haven't
Primal
played
Rage.
the arcade game, but I have played the SNES one.
Yes.
So.
It's mainly good on the arcades.
Yeah, and I have played the second one, which only exists in Galloping Ghost.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I finished it too.
Oh yeah, I remember there was a what happened on that.
Yep.
Which I will say, as far as arcades in general, if I ever go to Chicago, I want to actually go to Galloping Ghost.
Come with me. Call me up. We'll go together.
The moment I do, you'll be one of the first to know, of course.
Sure.
Yeah. But overall, I think that's going to do it for the show tonight. So, like, we definitely had a great time talking about arcade games. But before we start getting ready to sign off, Soan, where can we find you?
All right, you can find me on Twitch here, which is Soan, S0AN. And you can also find me on Twitter at Soan Sabushi. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me type that out because that's a long one. Hold on.
Oh yeah, totally. But yeah, because you do a lot of streams. Mainly, like one day you do retro games, and then the other day you do modern games.
Yep.
That makes me wish I had like a physical sign I could just hold up to the webcam.
Oh yeah. All right. And
I think that's how it is. Yeah.
okay,
There you go.
That's
yeah.
all right. What about you, Homecoming? Where can we find you?
Alrighty. If you want to follow me on Twitch, because I am making a slow comeback, my next stream is Tuesday evening. Then Homecoming Hero. And if you want to follow me on TikTok, then I am Homecoming Gamer with 1G. And I make a lot of TikToks. And then if you are a big fan of all sorts of gaming things, then Late Night Sprites on your favorite podcasting service, as well as latenightsprites.blogspot.com. The website may be changing in the future. I may be moving Late Night Sprites, but I'll do a big announcement. But for now, it's latenightsprites.blogspot.com. And yeah, I should have a post and an episode up tomorrow on... Well, I'll tell the episode. I won't tell the post yet, but the episode is my thoughts on that Mario movie teaser.
Okay.
And predicting the plot based off of the little information we have.
Yeah.
I'm so looking forward to that. I can't believe it's going to be out like in 6 months.
Same. Yeah. I probably might have an episode for that in the future, but we'll see. Anyway, Ben, where can we find you?
So on Twitch, I'm at Mista Ben. It's MISTAH Ben. And on Twitter, you can find me at Drakengard at DRAKENGARDE.
Yes.
It's basically the Drakengard name title, but with an E at the end.
Right.
So,
yeah. All right. Yeah, because like because I know like for everyone like in general like because like there's the new shout out feature but however they give you a cooldown for like a minute or so because like I still use the regular one but the new one they just implemented it on Twitch last week, which is actually not bad. But anyway,
I gave Homecoming a follow, so
yeah.
Thank you. I'm currently going through Shredder's Revenge because that might be like one of my favorite games ever at the moment.
It really is
Nice.
good. Yeah. But yeah. So for me, obviously, you can find me here, like all socials at ShellshockPrime. And I'll be having a couple more episodes real soon for sharing with Shellshock where I'm gonna try to figure out exactly what type of topic I'm gonna do next. Because there's a couple that I have planned. It's just scheduling with others in general. But yeah, so I appreciate you guys coming through in general. Thanks to everybody that came through just to watch us. And Soan, Homecoming, Mr. Ben. I appreciate you guys coming in for this. Just talking about arcade games.
Hey,
It's
thank
just
you
amazing.
for having us.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you
really appreciate
very
it.
much.
Yeah,
yeah.
it was fun.
It was definitely fun, and I'm hoping that we'll get to do more of these discussions again soon. I would like to have you guys on. Yeah, but yeah, that's gonna do it. I'll see you guys for the next one. Take care.